With some movies, you wonder whether they're ever going to see the light of day as they go through production hell, and DC's The Flash was definitely in that category. The film has now arrived on our screens and it's absolutely bombed at the box office, with a lot of the blame being pointed towards the main star Ezra Miller. Not to go into the full details here, but over the last year, Ezra Miller's been in the news for the wrong reasons, and with that, many fans have decided to boycott the film, and added to the fact that this is a movie of the last regime, so it's one of the leftover films from the DCEU, so there's not a lot of urge to watch this film from a majority of people. But of course, a film being a disappointment at the box office doesn't necessarily correlate into it being a disappointment as a film, and we've seen plenty of examples where that's the case. After recent DC films like Black Adam and Shazam Fury of the Gods, I've left those screenings just thinking, I've just watched a load of stuff happen, a load of action, a load of comedy, nothing's really hit me, the story's not done anything for me either, whereas with The Flash, the story I thought did actually hit some emotional beats, and also some of the comedy did actually work as well. Ironically, it felt like we were speedrunning through a Flash miniseries with a Batman film and a Supergirl film being mashed up in there as well. And so the overall construction of the film had a messy feel to it, where some scenes wouldn't seamlessly flow into the next one, and that's to be expected when you have a film which has had so many different reshoots. Films involving the multiverse seem to be the flavour of the month at the moment, with some working out better than others. The Flash delves into the multiverse and also enters the territory of time travel, and I always enjoy watching films tackle time because it's such a dangerous thing and something which shouldn't be meddled with, and a lot of films will have their own different version of how time works within that universe. However, in this case it does mean that we do get to see two Barry Allens in this film, and after watching Justice League I was sick of seeing just one of them, so to see two of them I thought was going to be quite a nightmare, but they actually do work off well with each other because you have one which is more mature and one which is immature, and they do actually work as a pair pretty well. Don't get me wrong, the character can still be obnoxious at times, but fortunately for the film, Michael Keaton's Batman returns at the perfect moment because Keaton, he slips back into the bat suit with ease and he steals every scene as like the wise figure in the film. Needless to say, it taps into the nostalgia and there are references aplenty, and there are even some which just feel like they are just made for the trailer.
Yeah, I'm Batman.
Speaking of nostalgia, the CGI looked like it was from yesteryear, as we had some pretty awful looking scenes. Like in some areas it looked okay, but throughout the film you just sort of got used to that standard, and the filmmakers have said that it was an artistic decision for certain points for it to look that way, but you can either buy that or not, but whatever the case, it didn't look good.
Oh, it's bad. Excuse me kids, I need to run, Ow!
The Flash is a film which feels old school for the reasons I mentioned, and it's one of the last films of the DCEU, so it's part of that goodbye tour, and it's one which doesn't pose any consequences bar the next two films. And so it's a here and now film where it's embraced its flaws, it's a roller coaster of a movie, and it's a mystery box film, so it's one where you're going to watch it and then probably not have any real desire to watch it again. Like for me, I don't really care to watch this again, and I don't really care about the rest of the DCEU. I haven't cared for a very long time about this universe.
Just don't care anymore. Don't care.
However, it was enjoyable to see Keaton's Batman again and also see Sasha Calle's Supergirl for the first time, and so it's going to be a shame to see these characters seemingly archived. Michael Shannon also returns as General Zod in this film, but he's pretty much just there as a pawn piece in the overall chess game. Towards the end of the film it does get quite heavy-handed with the multiverse stuff, and I think it all got a little bit too much. I mean, there was one cameo which did take me by surprise, but it did also conflict with the emotional tone of that scene, and heavy-handed is a term I'd use to describe the comedy as well. Like I said earlier, there were some times where it worked, but there were also times where they just overplayed it. Like there was a Back to the Future reference, for example, where it's like, yeah, okay, we get it, we understand what you're saying now.
Cheering me up!
But The Flash, unlike recent DC films, has a story where you can get invested into it. It's a family story, and it's one which focuses on the decisions you take in life and the critical nature of them, the rights and wrongs, and also the responsibilities of being a superhero. If you dissect this film, I think you'll find plenty of issues lying underneath, but for me personally, I was just hoping to be entertained for the runtime and then wipe my hands with it, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. For those who are anticipating an awful film with this one, this might help feed that narrative, but for me, I'll remember The Flash as being an efficient mashup of a DC movie. It had a great score as well, and it's one which we'll probably forget about, but it did its job in the time I wanted to do, and overall it was a fine film. So yeah, not amazing, but also not crap, but that's just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments below. And if you fancy another video, on screen right now is our review for the final season of Ted Lasso.